with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
Well, if you would, open your Bibles, Proverbs chapter 2. Proverbs chapter 2. We're talking about rebuilding the foundations. And I pray that the foundations, as they are laid in our heart, even just of worship, of the foundations of honor, respect, the foundation even of just serving, being who God called us to be. And I want to look at a foundation of wisdom in this session. Proverbs chapter 2. Notice that the writer says, beginning with verse 1, "My son, if you receive my words and treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. And for the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly." And then you notice in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 5, notice what he says. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her. The her here is wisdom, for she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you. And then it says in verse 7, this familiar verse, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and in all of your getting, get understanding. God knows that we are in a desperate time now where we need wise people, wise young men, wise young women. We've got a lot of smart people. We don't have a whole lot of wise people. And until a foundation of actually having a value for wisdom. In some Eastern cultures, one of the ways that they cultivate a love for knowledge in their children is that they will teach them a tidbit of knowledge and then give them a taste of honey. And there is a connection that is made in their brain that knowledge is sweet. And they grow up with an appreciation for learning. They don't even just let their children go to an instrument and just start playing around on them. They make them wash their hands before they are allowed to play on a keyboard, so that they treat it with value and respect. So that they see that this is a privilege. This is not just a toy here. I want you to approach this and take this as something serious. And so they begin to build values into their children, even at very young ages. And the thing that I want you to see is that you don't get wisdom unless you're really hungry for it. Because there are people that grow up around wisdom that never get it because they don't have an appetite for it. And so we have to cultivate that at an early age. And notice he tells us exactly how you have to seek for it. It says, seek for it like you're seeking for silver. I should say it this way, look for it like you're looking for money. You know how ladies do when they know that they have money in their purse, but they can't find it? I have seen ladies nearly tear the lining of the pocketbook out because they know that they had it in there somewhere. If you will seek it like lost money that you know is there, you know is there, you know wisdom is available. He says, I want you to dig for it like you're digging for silver. Look for it like you're looking for money that you know is there, but you just can't find it. That's the intensity that I want you to pursue it. That's all that he said. If you seek her as silver and search for it as a hidden treasure. And how do you know when you have enough wisdom? You just keep on adding to it. Just keep adding to it. A wise man realizes that you never stop learning. When you stop learning, you start dying. You never stop learning, never stop learning, never ever stop learning. And so hunger is the strongest appetite that we have. It is. Did you know that hunger is stronger than your sex drive? See which one that you can go longer without, food or sex. I mean, then you'll learn which one is stronger. So your appetite is so much stronger. It's so much stronger. And so here's the thing. If you find a person in a situation who has no desire, here's what you do. You take them to somebody who does have desire and expose them. Because exposure creates desire. Exposure creates desire. Now here's the next thing. Desire creates pursuit. Desire creates pursuit. You will never chase anything until you have an appetite for it. Now notice, he says, I want you to seek after wisdom like you're seeking for silver. Seek for her as for hidden treasure. You got to have a desire in you. Desire creates pursuit. The proof of desire is pursuit. The proof of desire is pursuit. If you really want something, you will pursue it. You will pursue it. Brothers, if you want something, you will pursue it. Ladies, if you want something, you will pursue it. If you want this job, you will pursue it. If you want a certain opportunity, you will pursue it. If you want a certain career, you will pursue it. If you want a certain degree, you will pursue it. Don't ever listen to people who tell you that they really want it really bad and they are making no effort to pursue it. But they are making excuses. An excuse is nothing but something that gives you permission to stay where you are. And you don't want to stay where you are. You want to be able to move to the next level because you don't want to become complacent. I love something that Marcus Aurelius said. He said that the true worth of a man is to be measured by the objects he pursues. You can tell what kind of person that you are just by the kinds of things that you pursue. You can tell the quality of a person by the kinds of things that they pursue. What they're going after. You tell me what your pursuits are, and it tells you a whole lot about your own character. So what you hunger for. So exposure creates desire, and desire creates pursuit. We have to be individuals who will pursue things that God places in our life. You want to be able to pursue certain things that God brings to you. God will actually, turn over to Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4. And I want you to see here that when you have things in you and you don't pursue it, did you know it actually angers God? I want to show you that in Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4. And let's look at verse 10. Exodus chapter 4 and verse 10. Notice this. Then Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Now here he's complaining. The Lord is telling him, I want you to go to Pharaoh for me. And he starts making excuses. "Oh Lord, I'm not eloquent." He said, "I wasn't eloquent before you talked to me, and I'm still not eloquent after you've talked to me. I wasn't eloquent before you called me, and I'm still not eloquent." And he said, I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue. And notice what the Lord said. The Lord said to him, "Who has made a man's mouth? Or who makes the mute and the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say." But he said, "Oh Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send." He's like, "God, do this through anybody but me." And notice what happened in verse 14. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, "Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know he can speak well. And look, he's also coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he'll be glad in his heart." But notice, when he started complaining to God about him, and then he said, "Lord, do this through somebody else." The Bible here says in verse 14, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. Because God knew what he had put in Moses. Moses didn't know what he had in him. And I want you to see here that God was angry with him. God will never be angry with a person without a cause. And let me just see if I can help you to understand what I'm talking about. You know how when you have a young child who's just learning to talk or walk or wave bye-bye or count to 3 or whatever the case may be, and then they'll do it for you, and then you get them in front of somebody else, and you say, come on, Pookie, come on and do it, show them. And then the baby just won't do it. And it just makes you mad. It's like, now this child has counted backward and forward to me all day and all night. And then you get to the person, and they won't do anything. Come on, baby, show them you can wave bye-bye. And they're just standing there like a deer in headlights. The parent gets angry almost. They get frustrated because they know the child can do it. But the child is intimidated. They're in an unfamiliar atmosphere, or because an unfamiliar person who's not normally around. And so they have intimidated the person, but the parent knows, I promise you my baby really can wave. But there's no evidence of it because they just won't do it when you want them to do it. And that frustrates a parent in the same way that God got frustrated when he knew that the stuff was in Moses, but Moses was intimidated. Moses was just flat out intimidated. Now, I want you to see what happened because when God says that you can do something, you can do it even if you've never done it before. When God told Moses that, Moses had never been a speaker. He said, listen, I wasn't a speaker before you called me, and I'm still not a speaker. But I just want you to see the end of the story. Flip over to Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7, and look at verse 22. Acts 7:22. Here's what Acts 7:22 says. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom. Notice here, this man was learned in wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. Most of us would just say that Moses was mighty in deeds. But notice the scriptures here in Acts 7:22 says Moses was mighty in words. This same man who was timid before God, saying, I can't do it. I am not eloquent of speech. I am slow of tongue. I can't do it. God knew that it was in him to do it. His inner me was his enemy. And notice, Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptian and was mighty in words and deeds. He was mighty in words. God made him a great orator. He didn't start off that way. God saw in him what he couldn't see in himself. But I'm just telling you, when that happens, trust him. Just trust him. Trust God. So exposure creates desire. Desire creates pursuit. Now here's the deal. You have to really hunger for something in order to go after it, to pursue it. Remember, you must have uncommon practice if you want uncommon results. If you don't want to be just like everybody else, if you want to stand out, you must have uncommon practice if you want to have uncommon results. You've got to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. And you've got to pursue it. You've got to pursue it. I told you, a young man that played basketball, he would go on the basketball court in different spots, to the right court, to the left court, center court, and he would shoot 200 baskets from every position until he locked it into his muscle memory exactly how to get the ball in from any point on the court that he practiced from. And all that he had to do in the game was to get to that spot. And he knew that if I get it and you get me that ball, if I can get to that spot, I'm going to get it in. Because he went every single day and would shoot 200 times from each position and just repeat it over and over until he locked it in his muscle memory. He was pursuing it. You know, Moses created a great leader in Joshua. But who did Joshua create? And then Elijah created a great prophet in Elisha. But who did Elisha create? Paul created a great pastor in Timothy, but who did Timothy create? And here's my point. I don't necessarily think that it was the failure of Moses in putting something in Joshua. Moses put it in Joshua. And I'm not even saying that it was Joshua's fault that he didn't find somebody to put it in. I don't think that was a part of a lack in Joshua's heart. I think it was a lack of hunger in a spiritual son's heart that never pursued Joshua the way Joshua pursued Moses. And the problem was not with Elisha. It's just that Elisha couldn't find somebody who would be dedicated to pursue him the same way that he had pursued Elijah for 20 years and served him without ever prophesying for 20 years and just served him in what seemed like menial tasks. He served him for 20 years and had ability and served him in silence for 20 years. It's amazing that he could not find someone who would so hunger for the double portion that was in Elisha's life. He had a man, his name was Gehazi, and Gehazi became impatient and usurped the timing of the Lord and lost the blessing. And he went after Naaman because he showed where his heart was, going after Naaman, trying to get all of the possessions that Naaman had that he was going to bless Elisha with. And he went after the money and the clothes and the stuff. And so he says, okay, you're going after Naaman. You want what Naaman had? Naaman had leprosy. Now the leprosy that was on Naaman, may it come on you. And the leprosy came on him. See, what he pursued then came on his life. But he failed to pursue what was in Elisha's life, and Elisha had a double portion of what Elijah had. He stood to gain even more, but he couldn't find a spiritual son who had enough hunger in him to pursue him. Timothy had the same problem. It was not a failure of the father, it was a lack of hunger in the son's heart. And so there's a huge problem that can be developed in the lives of individuals when you have something to give and the folks who need it desperately don't have an appetite for it. And so you remember when Elisha pursued Elijah, Elijah tried to actually get him to stay at Gilgal, and he wouldn't stay at Gilgal. He said, you leaving Gilgal? I'm leaving Gilgal. You going from Gilgal and you going to Bethel? I'm going to Bethel. And then he left Bethel and he tried to say, go ahead and stay here. Because Elijah said, listen, I'm going on to Jericho. And he left Bethel and went to Jericho. And he said, you going to Jericho? I'm going to Jericho. He pursued him. And then after he left Jericho, Elijah went on to Jordan. And he said, you going to Jordan? I'm going to Jordan. And he followed him on to Jordan. And it was a good thing that he did, because that's where he was separated. And the chariot of fire came and scooped him up, and that mantle fell down on him. And he never would have gotten it had he not had a pursuing mentality, because he desired it. He had said, I want a double portion of your spirit, and that desire created pursuit. Exposure creates desire. Desire creates pursuit. Now here's the next thing. Pursuit creates prevail. Pursuit creates prevail or triumph. Whatever you pursue will become better in your life. Whatever you pursue will become stronger in your life. You have to take the attitude, when you pursue something, you have to refuse to be denied. Now here's a simple truth. Failure follows those who fail to follow through. Failure follows those who fail to follow through. You know people that stop and start and stop and start and then stop and start and stop and start something else? Failure follows those who fail to follow through. I want to give you some wisdom here in just a few moments of some things that you need in order to really make dreams come true and to realize your goals that you set in your life. Just wisdom. Notice this, he said, pursue wisdom, go after wisdom. Search for it like you're searching for silver. Look for it like you're looking for hidden treasure, because there's so many wonderful benefits in that. The first is your attitude toward time. If you're going to reach a goal in your life, you're going to realize a dream, you've got to use your time effectively. And here's what I would say about time. Never put off tomorrow what you can do today. Matthew 6:34 says, take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. See, you'll only become tomorrow whatever you're becoming today. That means you got to work on it today. Learn to schedule your priorities instead of prioritizing your schedule. You see, budgets manage money, but schedules manage time. And so you learn to tell your money and time where to go instead of wondering where they went. But there has to always be a good management of your time. Are you spending time doing things that really matter? You'd be surprised how much busy time that we spend that doesn't really pay off. I would encourage you to take an inventory of how you spend your time and the fruitfulness that comes out of it. Because you'll find that you can save a whole lot of times, shave certain things off because they don't have a big enough payoff in your life for you to continue spending time doing it. Can I drop some wisdom on you here just for a minute? One of the things that really messes us up with time is that we say yes too quickly and no too slowly. Now, I just said a mouthful. If you will think in your own life right now, you don't have to go to anybody else as a reference. Just think in your own life about some things that have gotten you in a jam. It probably happened because you said yes too quick and no too slow. Whenever you had to say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, I've had enough of this, most of the time you wish you kick yourself that you didn't do it 2 years earlier. We get in serious trouble for saying yes too quickly and no too slowly. You got to really guard your time. He says, redeem the time, for the days are evil. Redeem the time. Redeem the time. You got to find time savers, things where you maximize your effort through time. Just through time. You got to have time. Everything happens in time. Time is a marker for events. Now, if you don't have any events scheduled, where it's something that's going to happen, then you don't need to be concerned about time. Time is only a marker for event. The only reason that you got here tonight on time is because this is an event. And you scheduled this event into your schedule. You budgeted time to be here. You didn't just get here by accident. You put it in your plan to be here. And so you made the time. You scheduled the time. It wouldn't have happened had you made no plan to be here. It just wouldn't have happened. There are certain things you wonder why this doesn't happen and why that doesn't happen. It's because people never schedule it. You have to schedule whatever it is that you want to happen in your life. You have to schedule it. Now, along with your discipline is delaying personal gratification. Delaying personal gratification. It says that you can't do it right now. It's not denial, it's simply delaying it. It means that you get your priorities in order. Now, and I want to give you some different components of what discipline are entailed in discipline. Let me just give you the first one. The first component of discipline is courage. It takes courage to discipline. There's sometimes children that need to be disciplined. It takes courage to discipline. You'll have to have discipline in your own life. It takes courage to turn down fried chicken and chocolate cake. Courage. Now, can I define courage for you? Courage is not the absence of fear. Hear this carefully. But rather, courage is the judgment that something else is more important than fear. Courage is the judgment that something is more important than fear. When courage comes, you're scared to death, but all of a sudden, now I value losing this life more than this thing that I'm afraid of. I'm going to overcome my fear because I value this as more important. That's what courage is really about. It is about valuing something as more important than the fear that is paralyzing you from doing it. Every time that you get ready to do something that is a God thing in your life, there will be fear that will try to paralyze. Fear paralyzes. There are a lot of people. Have you ever had so much stuff to do that you just get stuck? I mean, you just get a brain freeze. You just can't even do it. It's like, I don't even know where I am. What was I doing? It's just, you just feel overwhelmed. It's almost as though you have an anxiety attack, but it stops you. It stops you in your track. Fear stops us. Fear paralyzes us. If we want to get moving, you have to deem something more important than the fear that's facing you.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.